All right, there we go. Good stuff. There I am. Okay. It is Zerilath Eternal, and we are here. We are ready to rock and roll with this next step in the Talmud. Isn't it interesting being in this frame of mind in this time? Right? To look at things the way that I'm gonna look at things. And understanding that things are very complex. And if you oversimplify it to, does everything hinge on my assumption of the Jewish conspiracy or not, can oversimplify your entire worldview. Which is great for getting your point across within 15 minutes. But if anybody in the fucking world thinks a 15-minute conversation is sufficient to explain what's really going on, it's not. And, either way, you have no idea what to do with whichever truth you choose to accept. You very likely don't have a hill to run to. And quite frankly, you don't feel like you have a need to run to a hill, because I know that I don't. And I live pretty close to a place that if they're going to end the world, I'm pretty sure they would end my New York City neighbors. And I have a bad feeling that they're about to pull off some bullshit to dump on this guy. Which he will then not only fail horribly, but be rewarded for his failure with a promotion. Unless, of course, we choose to break the cycle. We broke a few cycles over the last few years. We didn't break all of them. And I think I feel better that we have crossed this Rubicon. Because how long do you think things are going to go? I find it strange that people are pivoting one way or the other. The superficiality of the Epstein files is to blame about this. The superficial choice of coverage by so many people is a core reason for this. Because now everything just looks so fucking simple. And I think people can't handle it anymore unless they are ready to get warped, dark, twisted, weird, fucked up. Which all could have been better prepared for if you were paying attention the first time Armageddon came around. Was it the end of the world 6 years ago, or was it the end of the world this year? Will it be the end of the world in another 7 years? Are you exhausted yet simplifying everything happening around you? Because life will exhaust you if you try that shit. If you try that shit and think you can continue to matter as an opinion. Because what's going to happen is we're going to migrate into a transition of a world, and we're going to be on just the other side of it, and we're going to be like, oh, that's nothing like I expected. And then something else is going to happen. Like, I'm not living in the world I expected post-2020. I thought it'd be worse. I thought that this would have fucking happened already. This thing we're happening now. But I don't think we have the same world map I don't think we have the same geopolitical situation, and therefore the narrative doesn't fit. And people can't see that they're in an outmoded narrative, which is the ironic mirror of Shia Islam in the manner in which it is in Iran. Also, they are out of date with the context of certain things. So, because when this is all over, do not get me wrong, none of this changes my opinion about Israel, Zionism, and the globalists. Not a fucking thing. And this is not about lying to oneself about what you think something is or isn't. I can tell very obviously that this script is all wrong, fucked up, and backwards. And it becomes more clear to me the idea that this is going well because ISIS doesn't exist anymore. End of story. This is probably also going well for a few other reasons. And doesn't it seem a little bit retarded that we're still worried about Russia? Right? I mean, is Russia really mobilizing right now and the media's not telling us that? And you're trusting them now to report to you that Iran is kicking our ass? Do you even know anybody covering the situation in Iran? Or at the very least, the Iranian nationalists' perspective, who is not a part of their regime, who is obviously going to say things are going well. The same media that covered for Obama and his pallets of cash is telling you that Iran is kicking our ass right now. And let us hope that they are fucking lying. You guys, like, seriously, I'm hearing the stupidest fucking, like, you know, you have allowed Pavlov's bell to drool you the fuck out on exactly the narrative they wanted you to. How many of you people, if you were around in the 80s, looked at the situation of the Ayatollah and said, man, motherfucker, we better do something about that? Liberals and conservatives alike. Because, you know, that kind of covering up a woman and the brutality of the whole effing thing in the transition period, because it wasn't just about stopping the Shah's tyranny. It was about this ideology. It was part of the whole fucking anti-colonial nonsense. Can you not see the global engine of socialism working to make America socialist? Did we not all try to fight for not their crony corporate state-sanctioned capitalist thing that is shared by the neolibs and the neocons alike? And guess what? All the democratic socialists are getting on board now because they're realizing how you play the game, and they want to play the game. They don't want to. They want to take over the game through the proper channels by the allowance of the globalists. Just biding their time as the agent of change, part of a manufactured body politic, undermining a culture that had nothing but its naivest best intentions for all sorts of people that they wanted to see get boosted up in the American dream like they were. And that's how that started. Not because I'm a communist, I need more communists in my country. It started for that reason. And we gave up on Americanizing the world, and we just said, world, come and make us into just the blah of you. And considering we did that, well, transforming ourselves into a completely fucking consumer and media-based economy, we have very little but what we do with our resources for war, holding our internal integrity together, because we're all a bunch of fucking artists and farmers up in here. You know? Core interpretation of the right, the farmers. Core interpretation of the left, the artists. Right? You see a farmer, you know they've got more conservative values, liberal values. And I mean like you're just like literal traditional farming and literal traditional art. Okay, this has been a very long, obnoxious, snooty gang. But look, we're exposing the Babylonian Talmud here in real time for not just educational purpose, but as a living, breathing criticism of that which you are now noticing has been in the subtext of many ways of our life, especially how they exploited it through the rules and regulations during the pandemic. Imagine what they're going to do in a war zone when they have invented probable cause to preemptively hold a gun up to your head. And because you're not in the uniform, your life means absolutely nothing. Follow orders. This isn't a constitutional arrest. We're under martial law. There's all sorts of fucking scenarios if you would like to fucking be immature and lose control. And you motherfuckers better not put me in a draft dodger position. Because fuck you, I will. Chapter 20. Regulations concerning certain acts of labor. Yeah, I didn't make this body so I could go out there and die alongside fundamentalists for fucking nothing. Okay? That's not why I got in fucking shape. You know, Pete Hegseth is not my friend. He's not my enemy, but he's not my friend. But he sure likes to exploit people with holy wars. Which has no standing on whatever battle chatter they're talking. I've already ranted about that in a prior stream. But anyway. Mishnah. Ar Elazar says, one may stretch a wine filter of cloth over a vessel on a feast day, and on the Sabbath one may pour wine into it, if it was already fastened to the vessel. The sages say one must not stretch it over a vessel on a feast day, and on Sabbath one must not pour wine into it, but the latter act is allowed on a feast day. Gemara. How is it possible that Elazar should decide that one may stretch a wine filter, etc., on a festival if he does not even allow a window blind to be added to a temporary tent, as is explained by Rabba bar Hana in the name of Ar Yohanan? In that case, he does not even allow the addition of a blind, and here he permits the stretching of a filter to commence with. Ar Elazar holds as Ar Yehuda, as we have learned in a Boretha, there is no difference between the Sabbath and the festival, except that the preparation of food is permitted on the latter. Ar Yehuda, however, even permits the arrangement for the preparation of food. That arrangements for the preparation of food we are aware of, that Ar Yehuda permits, such as cannot be made at any time before the festival, but did we hear of his permitting the arrangements for the preparation of food that could be made before the festival, to be made on the feast day? In this respect, our Eleazar is more lenient than our Yehuda, for he permits all arrangements for the preparation of food to be made on the festival. The sages say one must not stretch it, etc. The schoolmen propounded a question. What if a man did stretch the filter over a vessel on a festival? Is he culpable? Said Abai, this is only a rabbinical prohibition that one should not do on a festival such things as one does on a weekday. Abai collected all the rabbinical prohibitions to be found in the Borethas and taught as follows: a leather bag, a wine filter, a baldachin, and a folding chair as used in the city of Galen must not be spread. But if one does, he is not culpable. Tents, however, which are permanent, must not be put up, and if a man does this, he is culpable. One way, however, set up an ordinary bed, a chair, a tripod, and a stool with impunity. One must not pour wine into it, etc. The schoolman asked, what if a man did pour wine into it? Is he culpable? Said Argehana, yeah, he is liable to bring a sin offering. Arsheshta opposed this. Have ye ever seen that our Eleazar should permit a certain thing to be done to commence with, which the rabbis hold would make one liable for a sin offering? Ar-Yosef interposed, why not? Have we not learned in the case of a woman who went out with a golden ornament that Armeir held her liable for a sin offering, and Ar-Elazar permitted her to go out with it to commence with? It's really wild. It's still wild to me. Like the all of this completely, like every step of the book. Like, I've mentioned this before, and I like repeating this over and over again as it feels right, just to remind you contextually. Like, it's funny how these questions go about, where nothing gets to the absolute depth of what the highest principle that they are protecting by upholding these things as properly to the Word of God that they have, that they can remember that they can. And because it is this state of affairs, because so much of their relationship of their God was based on their relationship with the government, right? And so we don't, it's like you don't know what it's about. You just know you have to do it if you want the Sabbath to count in God's eyes, which you will know, I guess, because of the way the Shekinah feels during your time of not working. Right? And so, I mean, I would have simplified the whole Talmud and said, like, don't get any work done unless there's absolute emergencies. Don't ask any stupid fucking questions about that. Just relax unless somebody is going to have a permanently terrible thing that should not happen. Use your good judgment. Otherwise, just chill. Do nothing. With minimalist movement, fuss, work effort, do the bare basics of the preparations and everything that you go through in a manner that doesn't drive you nuts, as long as you're essentially not breaking your back like it's a work day about the whole thing. Right? And that's probably exactly what most fucking Jews that don't bother with the Talmud at all do. And that's why they just got their Sabbath thing. They probably don't spend much time. They might have the Talmud. They may not be reading it, right? Or they may not be studying it, but they've read it. So they remember, oh, there's a this in there, and then there's a that in there. And then it just depends on if it's in Hebrew or not, because these guys may not be doing it in Hebrew or Yiddish or whatever. How should a man be warned not to pour wine into the filter? I.e., in what category of labor is that act to be classed, so that a man can be warned that he is performing a certain prohibited principal act of labor? Rabbah said he is to be warned against. You see, like, this is the thing. I wouldn't bother with that as a warning. I'd see somebody working. It's just they're not really doing anything wrong other than they're gonna miss out on the relationship. That's the only thing I can imagine is that you get the relationship with the Shekinah. That's the only thing that all this is about, and it's that fucking important because you need to have your weekly Shekinah update, right? It's imagine your operating system needs an update from the central server once a week. That's what you're doing on the Sabbath to get this Shekinah going, right? And so you're trying to keep your body in a certain rested state to experience the Spirit of God coming over you because it's stronger on Saturn's Day, which is also part of their Saturnian cult situation. We're a sun cult, so our Sabbath is Sunday. If you're in cult of Odin, your Saturn is your Sabbath is Wednesday. If you're cult of Thor, it's Thursday. Doesn't that make sense? That makes all sorts of sense. Okay, great. So, he is performing a certain prohibited principal act of labor. So I would just be like, oh, hey man, don't here, try it that way. Just try to get less work out of what you're doing. You got to do it because it's for the Sabbath. Here's a way to do it that isn't as laboring. Right? Because it's like they're trying to litigate something which is supposed to be intuitive. That's the problem. These people have dead intuition. And so they've supplicated their intuition to have their goddamn fucking relationship with God to do all these rules and regulations so everything clears up for Saturday. Then you can go gunk yourself up all week with sin, get to Saturday and clean spiritual house. Right? That's the game. That's the game that they're playing here. It seems to me that my decision is more conformity with reason. See, the thing is, what side comes from who, right? Of the is both Hillel and Shammai citing, the same sources equally? Does that have a factor? Or is it that, certain texts are Shammai heavy and certain texts are Hillel heavy or something like that? You know what I mean? There's probably some unspoken differences that are just now part of the accepted level of diversity. It's just oh, it's great. You can have tyrannical Sabbath or liberal Sabbath. It's fucking great. See? We got a little bit of either kind of slavery for you. The free slavery and the restricted slavery. Because you can't restrict a slave. You need them to work. They have to be able to work around their work site. One way out. One way out. Rabba said, he is to be warned against the fruit cleaning, Arzera said. Against sifting, said Rabba. It seems to me that my decision is more in conformity with reason, for as in fruit cleaning, the good fruit is separated from the bad, so it is also in this case. He separates the clean wine from the lees, said Arzera. It seems to me that my decision is more in conformity with reason, because as in sifting the good falls to the bottom, and the bad remains in the sieve. So it is also in the case that the good wine falls into the vessel, while the less remain in the filter. Rami, the son of Ezekiel, taught, a folded garment should not be spread on poles to serve as a sunshade. But if a man do this, he is free. If, however, a string or a hanger was already attached to the garment with which it could be fastened to the poles, this may be done to commence with. Well, okay, that's just more like what's proper for making it useful that way. More than I would make a law against that. You just wouldn't do it because it just wouldn't work. Or wouldn't work effectively. Ar-Kahana asked of Rab, what is the law regarding a baldachin? A balls on chin? And he answered, even a bed is not permitted. Ar-Kahana then inquired, what is the law regarding a bed? And Rab answered, even a baldachin is allowed. What is the law regarding a bed and the baldachin? A bed is allowed, but a baldachin is not allowed. Okay, hold on a second. I need to know what the hell a baldachin is. All right. Okay. It's also known as the huppah, is a significant element in Jewish wedding ceremonies. It is a baldachin made of precious purple cloth adorned with golden jewels. Okay, all right. So what's I want a picture of it. Is there a picture? Is that the baldachin? This thing? Okay, it's that. Must be that. Got it. Okay. This thing is also called a baldachin. Okay. And I think that's a massive one. That's like, that might be in the Vatican. It might be somewhere in Rome. It's freaking awesome looking, though. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. The baldachin. So, the baldachin, that's cool. That actually, you know, it's very good to know that name, because if you're a tarot reader, what else is the baldachin? That's the four of wands. It's the four staves. That's also the baldachin. And the chariot. The chariot card is also a baldachin. The more you know. Okay. In spite of this, there is no difficulty in not permitting even a bed. Rab had reference to a folding bed as used by the Carmenites, and where he said, even the baldachin is allowed. He had reference to a baldachin as described by Rami bar Ezekiel, i.e., one which had strings attached to it, in saying a bed is allowed and a baldachin is not allowed. He meant to say that an ordinary bed, such as is generally used, may be set up, but a baldachin that had no strings or hangers attached must not be set up, said Ar Yosef. I have seen the baldachins in the house of Arhuna at night on Sabbath Eve. They were folded up, and in the morning they were all set up. Rami bar Ezekiel sent to Arhuna and asked him to impart to him some of the good sayings of Rab, 2 concerning the Sabbath and 1 concerning the law. So Arhuna sent him the following sayings. Concerning what we have learned in a Boretha, that a leather bag which had strings already attached may be spread on poles on Sabbath. Rab said that this may be done jointly by 2 men, but not by 1. Said Abai, a baldachin which must not be set up must not even be set up by the joint efforts of 10 men. What was the other good saying of Rab concerning Sabbath? Concerning what we have learned in a Boretha, that if an iron stove had 1 leg missing, it may be handled, but 2 legs were missing, it must not be handled. Rab said that it must not be handled, even if 1 leg was missing, as a precaution, lest one might be tempted to fasten the missing leg, and that would constitute building. What was the good saying of Rab concerning the law? Rab said, there will be a time when the law will be forgotten by Israel, as it is written in Deuteronomy 28:59. Then will the Lord render wonderful thy plagues, etc. And I could not understand what is meant by wonderful plagues. But it is written in Isaiah 29:14, therefore, behold, I will do yet farther a marvelous work, doing wonder on wonder, so that the wisdom of their wise men shall be lost, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hidden. The rabbis taught, when our teachers went into the vineyard of Jamniah, they said that the law would be forgotten by Israel, as it is written in Amos 8:11. This is interesting to me, because I feel like this has a little bit of correspondence to the times we're living in. Or at least by the merit that we're in transitional times where we have sickening feelings about old laws and sickening feelings about new laws too. Behold, days are coming, saith the Lord Eternal, when I will send a famine in the land. Not a famine for bread, nor thirst for water, but to hear the words of the Lord. And Ebed 12. And they will wander about from sea to sea, and from north even to the east, or to the cast. They will roam about to seek the word of the Lord, but they shall not find it. By the word of the Lord is meant halakha, the end of exile, i.e. the coming of the Messiah, and also the prophecies. Okay, so let's put that together a little bit here, because I think that this works in its allegorical context too. Americans have been in this existential, externalized universe, where they've been conditioned to be spiteful towards any kind of invisible intelligences that exist in the universe, like as if there was this animist consciousness in it, right? And in your youth and the way you're connecting with people and the world and such, and not holding to anything that gets you into the personal, the reflective, the quiet and alone for a little bit to sit with yourself, right? And all these kinds of things, right? And so you don't know how to get out of the world you live in, so you move around and you check out the rest of the world looking for yourself. And so we had a lot of our culture spent its money and just traveled, became as cultured as fuck. But then they got really rose-colored glasses about the culturization, right? Because you got the projection of all the really, like, neat stuff, you know, good food, beautiful art and architecture and amazing music, other kinds of aesthetic things, so on and so forth, other aspects of what they are as a people. but you aren't even paying attention to the reality that happens to be in there also. Right? Because a lot of people, you know, because you're looking at like one particular part of that world where everything is fine and under control. And there's a higher level of basic self-respect and decorum and X, Y, and Z. And then you go to other places where it's just like, yeah, you're poor, but also, man, you're telling me that you don't listen to people that give you a little bit of advice about how you can make your living condition a little bit better for nothing, with a few change-ups, and now it's perpetuating because you've got stacks of generational disease and deformities and breakdown of cognitive understanding of stuff, and you know, it's foregone now. These are generations of problems that we've kept going for way too fucking long. And I've been well past my break for way too fucking long. I forgot that we were like at the top of the hour not that long ago. All right, so this was a good long first run. We're listening to Deseration. The album is called Non. That was Those Who Dwell in Darkness. And Latentis, the intro to that. And now Beyond the Veil of Sleep. And we're back. Excellent. So we were just going over some interesting thoughts about, like, end timesy kinds of things. In another Boretha, we have learned, Simon ben Yochai said, "May God forbid that the law be forgotten by Israel. It is written in Deuteronomy 31:21. For it shall not be forgotten out of the mouth of their seed. How then can the previous passage, and they will roam about to seek the word of the Lord, but they shall not find it, be verified? It means they shall not find a perfect halakha, which shall be incontestable, nor a Mishnah, which shall be beyond refutation anywhere on earth." Isn't that what they have right now, though? Everything going on here, there's a Mishnah, and then somebody is arguing about it. There's not a disargued Mishnah running about here, right? And a perfect halakha, right? Let me double check on what halakha means again. Just keeping these goddamn terms straight, and I really try not to annoy my fucking day with thinking about this stuff too much, and it's gonna seep in. You know, I had some thoughts on the Talmud running through my mind during meditation today. And it was good to go over those thoughts. I don't have the exact recall of it right now because that's in meditation. It's the mind adrift, and so it's like remembering that you had a dream, but you couldn't tell you anything about it except for maybe a theme. So anyway, Talmud Halakha. The Talmud is central text is the Talmud. A central text is a compilation. Right. Okay. Talmud is divided into two main parts: the Mishnah, the Gemara. Right. So yeah. So the Halakha. So the Mishnah and the Halakha. The Halakha, like the Mishnah, is in the Halakha, right? So it's just saying you're not gonna find the perfect Bible. You're not gonna find the perfect book in the Bible. It's like saying that. And here we are. So anyway, we have learned in a Boretha, if thou shouldst live in a generation in which there is much trouble, persecution, go and investigate amongst the judges of Israel. For most of the trouble that happens in this world happens only on account of the corruption of the judges, as it is written in Micah 3:9-11. Hear this, I pray you, ye heads of the house of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel, that abhor justice and make crooked all that is straight. They build up Zion with blood guiltiness, and Jerusalem with wrong. Yet here her heads judge for bribes, and her priests teach for reward, and her prophets divine for money. And yet will they lean upon the Lord, etc. They are all wicked, and yet they all lean upon the one who spoke, and the world was created, and therefore the Lord will bring upon them 3 troubles for the 3 sins of which they were guilty, as mentioned above: judging for bribes, teaching for reward, and divining for money. Well, first off, this book has talked about not even liking divination, really, because it's kind of witchcraft as far as they're concerned. Even though they are divining in the one context of the Uman and Thuman. That's all divination. That's their tablet for interfacing with messages from God. Okay? So, and they don't do it for money. But they don't have to do it for money because it's a function of the state, and therefore it is paid for by the wealth of the nation. As one of the duties of a priest, or however their system has it set up. So that's very interesting, right? You see, because the person doing independent divination, who is not a part of these systems, the divination for money is supposed to be to keep it from going into a certain bias. If you don't pay me, I could lie to you to tell you what you want to hear. Because I want to get something from you because you didn't pay me. That is an unconscious and fair part of inner nature. And we can't have a system in which we don't address this. Otherwise, you're violating the law of Gebo. So, there's nothing wrong with divining for money. You see, it's the independence of the thing. Right? The point is that somebody wants to do business and use your talent in divination because they want some help understanding their fate. And so this is the problem. It's just like they don't want anybody helping somebody talk to God. But they don't want to teach you how to talk to God yourself at the same time, right? This is where you start understanding how you end up being like Lucifer, right? Because the only way to do it as an independent thing from the rest of everyone else is to set it up as a business and charge money so you can take care of yourself while doing it professionally. And that's not the real reason why they don't like it. It's just against the law because only the rabbis can divine under their laws. That's all that is, right? Because back then, divination was a part of the government, you know? You had the Department of Divination, your oracles. Otherwise, everybody else can agree to the other two amongst these principles. So it is written in Ibid 12, "Therefore for your sake shall Zion be plowed up as a field, and Jerusalem shall become ruinous heaps in the mount of the house. Forest-covered high places, and the Holy One, blessed be He, will not permit His Shekinah to rest again amongst Israel until the corrupt judges shall be removed, and the guardians of peace shall be abolished from Israel, as it is written in Isaiah 1:25-26, and I will turn my hand against thee and purge away as with lie the dross and remove all thy tin, and then I will restore thy judges as at the first and thy counselors as at the beginning." Kind of reminds me of in Trump's first term. During not just the Obama administration, but put off for many decades, was the appointment of judges to all sorts of positions in the government. Obama in particular just didn't want to fulfill any of these positions. They had some sort of obligation, but they always had this stall and delay of the whole thing. And so Trump, strong-arming Mitch McConnell, got all these judges in. So like I said, there's the Shekinah, its importance there. And the guardians of the peace shall be abolished from Israel. That's fucking wild, right? First again, until the corrupt judgment, the guardians of peace. I want to see that. I want to see that and see if I can understand it. Isaiah 1, 25 and 26. Boom. I shall certainly restore my hand on you so that I may refine your dross in a crucible. I shall certainly take away all your tin alloy. Okay, so I shall restore the hand of me on you, and I shall refine as the purifier the dross of you. What does dross mean? The sieg, swug, in the sense of refuse or scoria. Okay. And I shall take away all the alloys of tin. So they mean just like literal tin smelting. Yeah, okay. So you'll lose like all your... You'll lose like some very seriously important resources. They'll no longer be at your disposal. I shall certainly restore your judges at the first and your counselors at the start. Afterwards it shall be proclaimed concerning you, city righteousness, faithful town. Okay, so what's that got to do with the guardians of peace over here? Oh, I shall be comforted. Zion with judgment shall be ransomed and restored to the ones. Transgressors, sinners together, those forsaken. For they shall be ashamed because of the oaks which you have coveted. What the hell are these guardians of peace? Talmud and Isaiah. I'm going to go with guardians of peace. Spell that horribly. It mentions the law of the four guardians, which is one of the treatises of the Talmud. Okay, it must be these guys. There's four guardians. Okay. The book of Shemot. The Torah presents the laws of the four Shomrim, the four guardians. The Shomer. Okay. In the Mishpatim, the portion of the book of the Shemot, Exodus, the Torah represents the laws of the four Shomrim. The Torah succinctly mentions the law of the four guardians, while one of the treatises of the Talmud, the Bavli Bava Metzia, discusses them and explains there are four guardians. The unpaid, the borrower, the paid, and the renter. Interesting. These are economic classifications. These are transactional classifications. The unpaid, the borrower, the paid, and the rent. The unpaid guardian wears his innocence and is completely exempt, released. The borrower pays in full, obviously. The paid guardian and the renter are sworn to be harmless if the animal breaks its leg or dies, but they pay if the animal is lost or stolen. In this article, we will explain the basic laws of the four guardians. Okay, Sheol, the borrower or borrower. Sheol, like Sheol, like Jewish underworld. In the group of 4 guardians, the Shoal, the borrower, assumes the highest level of responsibility for the property of others in his or her care. This is understandable. The borrower receives something that belongs to a third party for his own benefit without paying or reciprocating for it. The Torah expects him to return what he borrowed, an object or animal, intact and undamaged. Right. This is renting everywhere, right? Okay. So that's interesting. So, to be in Sheol is to be in hell, and to be in hell is to be in debt. See how that works? And they made you believe that hell is the same as Sheol in their language, meaning it's an evil underworld place. When, it's a very cold place today, but it used to be a paradise where all mankind came forth. Socher, the renter. The leasee is similar to the borrower, with one obvious and significant difference. He pays for the use of someone else's property. Suppose Shimon borrowed Reuven's car on the condition that he pay a rental fee, but what happens if the car is damaged or destroyed while under Shimon's responsibility, as he rented the car, paying for its use? The situation is not identical to that described above, in which the loan had been free. In that case, Shimon is a renter, not a borrower. Gotcha. Okay, so this is when I think I've always understood these principles, right? These, I think that you could probably say that these are the names of angels, or there are angels associated with these principles. Shomer Shashar, the paid guardian. In Rabbi Meyer's opinion, the degree of responsibility of the tenant is the same as that of the paid guardian. Hey, everybody complaining about rent in your liberal city. Listen to this. Who is the paid guardian unlike the renter? He does not pay for the use of someone else's property, but rather receives a payment for taking care of the property. Oh, well, isn't that interesting? So, the paid guardian, unlike the renter, he does not pay for the use of someone else's property, but rather receives payment for taking care of the property. So, according to Jewish law, your landlord doesn't own your apartment. But he has to take care of the building that your apartment is in. So, how is New York going to solve its problems? In the 2 scenarios described above, Shimon, Michael Jackson, right? wanted to borrow Reuven's car. Right. I already explained that. Yeah. Okay. So I think we get that. That's good enough for me. And then the unpaid guardian. The unpaid custodian looks after someone else's property as a favor and receives no payment or reward for doing so. Suppose Shimon agrees to take care of Reuven's car, but refuses to accept payment. He's doing Reuven a favor. He helps others and does not believe that we should perform acts of kindness, expecting something in return. What happens if Reuven's car is damaged and destroyed while in Shimon's custody? By Torah law, because Shimon is an unpaid guardian, he is looking after someone else's property as a favor without receiving payment or reward for it. His responsibility in the event of misfortune is minimal. See? You get what you pay for, right? You trusted the man on an unprofessional level, right? You're taking certain risks. Under payment, there's liability stuff. It's different. And all of this actually makes good sense. I'd say that there is actual common sense, very law of Gebo principles occurring here. Okay, this is a good spot to take the next break. We'll be able to straighten things out after this. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I never flashed the page. My bad. There's also nobody in the chat room, so I don't have any wingmen. Anyway, this is the next song. This is Cruel World Order. Oh, that's a sexy turn of phrase. How old is this? Oh, this came out Feb 5th.
Resistance
That's a favorite so far. Cruel World Order. Sexy. Alright, I'm just taking a peek here before I open up. Okay, not that far. This is not a long chapter. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7 pages. About 7 pages. So that's not bad. Depending on how fast I can continue to go, we might be able to bang this out. I'm going 3 hours. We're here. We're hanging. I'm not rushing. I think I can bang out 7 pages tonight. 7 more pages, that is. We're down here. That's where we are. Ula said, Jerusalem will not be redeemed except through charity, righteousness. As it is written in Isaiah 127, Zion shall be redeemed through justice and her converts through righteousness. Our Papa said, when the proud men will be destroyed, then also will the men who slander and cause us to be hated be destroyed. As it is written, and purge away as with lie thy dross. And when the corrupt judges will be removed, the bailiffs will also become extinct, as it is written, Zephaniah 3:15, the Lord hath removed thy punishment. He hath cleared away thy enemy. Malay, in the name of our Elizar ben Simon, said, it is written, Isaiah 14:5, broken hath the Lord the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. The staff of the wicked refers to the judges who made of themselves a staff upon which their servants scribes should lean, i.e. they gave them all the opportunities to extort money of which they took a share. The scepter of rulers refers to the judges who made their relatives rulers. Mar Zutra said, the above verse refers to the teacher who turns out ignorant men and allows them licenses to be judges. And through ignorance they were incapable of judging rightfully. Ar Elazar ben Malai said in the name of Resh Lakish, it is written in Isaiah, Lix 3, for your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with iniquity. Your lips have spoken falsehood, your tongue uttereth deception. Your hands are defiled with blood refers to the judges. Your fingers with iniquity refers to the scribes of the judges. Your lips have spoken falsehood refers to the lawyers, and your tongue uttereth deception refers to the litigants themselves. Right. These are kind of like attestations that you would say to label and point to various enemies, if you will, right? Armelai said again, in the name of Itzhak of Magdala, from the day that Yosef left his brethren, he tasted not wine, as it is written in Genesis XLIX 26. These shall be on the head of Joseph, on the crown of the head of him that was separated from his brothers. Aryos bar Hanina said that the brothers of Joseph also did not taste wine, because it is written in Ibid XL 34, and they drank and were merry with him, because it says with him, the inference is that without him they did not drink. Armalai said again, the reward due Aaron for what is written, Exodus 4:14, and when he seeth, he will be glad in his heart, was given him in the breastplate of judgment. See Ibid 28:15. The inhabitants of the city of Bashkir sent a query to Levi as follows. What is the law concerning a baldachin? What is the law concerning a flax sown in a vineyard? Does it come under the head of kelaim or not? And what is the law concerning one who dies on a festival? While the messenger was on his way, Levi died. Said Samuel to Manasseh, if thou wouldst be wise, answer thou these queries. So Manasseh answers as follows: as for a baldachin, we have investigated on all sides and found no permission for setting it up. As for flax sown in a vineyard, it constitutes a case of kelaim. As for a man that had died on a festival, the corpse should be kept until after the second day of the festival, and it should not be interred neither by Israelites nor by Gentiles. This is not so. Rami bar Ezekiel found permission for a baldachin, as previously said. Tarfon decided that flax sown in a vineyard does not constitute kelaim, and Rabbah decreed that a corpse may be interred on the first day of a festival by Gentiles, and on the second day even by Jews. However, because the men of Bashgar were ignorant, Manasseh gave them the stricter decrees, lest they take advantage of the more lenient. Eben bar Arhuna said in the name of Arhama bar Guria, a man can wrap himself in the canopy that has not been fastened to the poles, together with its fringes, and go out into public ground with impunity. In what respect does the decision differ from that of Arhuna, who said in the name of Rab that one who went out into public ground wearing a talith or toga without tzitzith, a show threads, is culpable and liable for a sin offering? In the case of a talith, the show threads being the most important part of the garment are valuable, and without them the talith is simply a burden, whereas the fringes of a canopy are not an essential part of the canopy, and having used the latter for a garment, it may be worn even with fringes. Rabbi Barhuna said, a man may, with cunning, stretch a wine filter over a vessel and say that he intends to use it as a receptacle for pomegranates, but when it is already stretched, he may filter wine through it, said Arashi. He may do this only if he had previously placed pomegranates in the filter. In what respect does this decision differ from the following Baretha? During the intermediate days of a festival, either Passover or the Feast of Tabernacles, a man may brew leer for consumption on those days, but not for use on other days, be it be beer made of dates or of barley, and although he have stale beer still on hand, he may with cunning brew new beer and drink it. Should he have any left over, he may keep it for other days. Hence we see that it is not necessary to dissemble by doing something else before performing the act really intended. In the latter case, it is not known whether the man have any stale beer on hand or not, and hence it might be presumed that he has none and must brew more. But in the former case, when the wine filter is stretched and the wine is being immediately filtered through it, the presumption would be that it was stretched for that purpose only. Said the disciple to Arashi, we would call that attention of the master to this young scholar, Arhunaba Hyven of Heluvan by name, who takes the clove of garlic and stops up a hole in a wine barrel with it, saying that he intends merely to preserve the clove of garlic. He also goes and lies down on a ferry, presumably to sleep in the meantime. He is ferried across the river, and on the other side he watches his fields, saying, however, that he merely intended to sleep. Answered Arashi, Ye speak of cunning trickery. All the acts mentioned by you are prohibited by rabbinical laws only, and in the case of a scholar, there is no danger that he will commit them publicly without resorting to cunning. Mishnah 1 may pour water on yeast in order to thin the latter, and one may filter wine through a cloth or an Egyptian wine basket. One may put a beaten egg in a sieve. One may also make honey wine on Sabbath. Ardahuda said on Sabbath, this may be done only in a cup on feast days, even in a lug, pitcher, and on the intermediate days, even in a barrel. Arzadak says at all times it should be made according to the number of guests. Gemara. Zera said, a man may pour clear wine or clear water into a filter with impunity. May clear wine only and not dimmed wine be poured into a filter? Have we not learned that Simon ben Gamaliel said, a man may stir up a cask of wine with the lees on the Sabbath and pour it through a filter with impunity? Zera explained the decree of Simon ben Gamaliel to the effect that the latter spoke of wine that was just being pressed. When it is customary to drink the wine with the lees, hence the wine is not improved, as it can be drunk without filtering. One may filter wine through a cloth, Arsimi Bihaya said, providing the cloth is not turned into a funnel, that the cloth should not subsequently be wrung. An Egyptian wine basket, said Arhaya Bar Ashi, in the name of Rab, providing the wine basket is not lifted above the bottom of the vessel to the height of one span. One may put a beaten egg in a mustard sieve. Jacob Kaha explained this as follows. Because the yolk is used only for coloring the white of the eggs, is nevertheless as much an article of food as the yolk, hence no sifting takes place. It was taught, mustard which had been prepared before Sabbath may be ground on the Sabbath, either by hand or with a vessel. Honey may also be placed in the mustard on Sabbath. It must not be thoroughly mixed, however, but merely stirred. Cresses which had been cut up before the Sabbath may be mixed with oil and vinegar on the Sabbath, and one may also add mint. It must not be thoroughly mixed, however, but merely stirred. Garlic, which had been ground before the Sabbath, may be mixed with broad beans and peas, but must not be ground together. Mint may also be added, said Abai. We see that mint is good for the spleen. Sure. All this sounds groovy. Garlic, I fucking love garlic. It's very good for you. I'm sure broad beans and peas. I don't know exactly what good they are for you. I'm an olive oil guy, if not a hemp seed oil guy. Hemp seed is the only seed oil that I do, because it's hemp seed. Mint may also be added. We see mint is good for the spleen. Yeah. So mint. Mint is always a fun little garnish to grow in your garden. But, it's very interesting how they're getting into very particular cooking instructions. Telling you what you may do. What kinds of things, right? Anyway, one may make honey wine on the Sabbath. The rabbis taught one may make honey wine on the Sabbath, but not an oil wine salve. The difference between the honey wine and oil wine salve is the former is made of honey, wine, and pepper, while the latter is made of old wine, clear water, and aromatic balsam to be used as a lotion after a bath. Said Yosef, once I went with Mar Ukba to a bathhouse. When we came out, he gave me a cup of wine, which when drinking, I fell all over from the roots of my hair to the nails of my feet, and had he given me another, I am afraid that the reward due me in the world to come would have been lessened in proportion. Mar Ukba drank this wine every day. He was accustomed to it. Mishnah. Hang on. Just double checking. Still got a while to go. It's 8 o'clock now. I'm going to clock in on the next break now. So we'll go through this song. Then after this song, yeah. All right. Okay, cool. Here we go. And here we are. Mishnah 1. Mishnah. 1 must not put laserpitium in tepid water for the purpose of softening the former. The hell is laserpitium? Ugh. Oh my god. Come on. Significant plant in ancient times, particularly. No, I assure you, AI, that it does, because I just read it right here. It's a plant, though. Okay. So do not put the lesopitium in tepid water for the purpose of softening the former, but one may put it in vinegar. One must not soak bran nor grind it, but may put it in a sieve or in a basket. One must not sift feed straw through a winnow, nor lay it in a high place so that the chaff fall out, but one may take it up in a window and then pour it into the crib. Gemara. The schoolmen asked, what if one did put lesopitium in tepid water? Said Abai, this is only a rabbinical prohibition, that it should not be done as on a weekday. Yohanan asked of Aryanai, is it allowed to put lesopitium in cold water on Sabbath? And he asked, it is not, said Yohanan. We have learned in the Mishnah that it is not allowed to put it in tepid water, but in cold water it should be allowed, answered Aryanai. If thou askest me concerning a Mishnah, what difference is there between me and thee? The Mishnah is according to the opinion of one man, and the Halakha does not prevail according to his opinion, as we have learned in a Tosefta. Lesopitium must not be put in either cold or tepid water. Arhios said, it is not allowed to put it in tepid water, but it may be put in cold water. For what purpose is it used? For a heavy feeling in the chest. Ar-Eha bar Yosef had a heavy feeling in the chest. So he came to Mar Ukba and was told to drink lesopitium to the weight of 3 shekels in 3 days. He drank some on Thursday and Friday, and on Sabbath he came to the house of learning to inquire whether he might drink it. He was told that if the disciples of Ada, others say of Mar bar Arada, taught that one may drink even a cob or 2 cobs with impunity. He then said to them, I am not asking whether I may drink it, that I know is allowed, but I should like to know whether I may put the lesopitium in water in order to drink it. Oh, see how irritating, like, you have to live your life to double check on these fucking things. Otherwise, you're going to be in big trouble. So I went to Ar-Eda bar Ahaba and asked him, but he did not know. So I asked Arhuna, who said that Rab decided that first it should be put in cold water, then it may be put in warm water. It's like they really believe that God is going to destroy Israel if they just don't keep these traditions within certain parameters. Right? You gotta keep up this whole thing for Israel to exist. And they're trying to convince many, many people to be goyim, contribute sympathetic magic to it. And then there are other Jews that resent the Jews that are encouraging Christians this way instead of being more spoken up about it. And it's crazy how long this piss-poor narrative has persisted and chooses to persist for generations. Ar-Eha Bar Yosef leaned on the shoulders of his nephew, Ar-Naaman Bar Itziak, and went out into the street and told him when they came to the house of Ar-Safra to lead him in. When they got there, they went in, and Araha asked of Ar-Safra, may a shirt that had been laundered too stiffly be rubbed and softened by hand on the Sabbath? Shall we assume that it is only intended to soften the shirt and is therefore permissible, or that it is intended also to bleach it and is hence prohibited? Ar-Safra answered that it might be done, and asked him, why dost thou ask about a shirt? Why not ask also about a turban? I've already asked concerning a turban of Arhuna, and he said that it is not permitted. Why then didst thou come to ask about a shirt? Thou couldst have inferred from the turban that the other was also not permitted. Answered Ar-Eha, a turban is bleached by unfolding and rubbing, but a shirt is not. Ar-Hista said, if a shirt had been hung up to dry by means of a stick drawn through the armholes, it should be taken down from the stick. But the stick should not be taken down alone, because the stick is not a vessel, and hence must not be handled. Said Rabbah, if the stick was one that may be used by a weaver, it may be taken down because it is regarded as a vessel. Ar-Hista said again, a bundle of herbs, if suitable for cattle food, may be handled on the Sabbath. If not, it must not be handled, said Arhaya bar Ashi in the name of Rab. Dried salt meat may be handled on Sabbath because it can be eaten uncooked, but dried salt fish must not, because it cannot be eaten uncooked. Ar-Hista said again, a man who attends school and has not sufficient bread should not eat herbs because it creates hunger. I myself have never eaten herbs, neither when I was poor nor when I was rich. When I was poor, I did not want to stimulate my appetite, and when I was rich, I rather ate meat and fish in place of herbs. Again, he said, a young pupil who lacks food should not eat a little at a time. He should wait until he can accumulate sufficient for a hearty meal and then eat. When I was poor, I never ate until I could put my hand in the basket and find sufficient to satisfy my hunger. There might be something to that, just because of the way the body processes nutrition and how much you need to actually operate things in the system. The same Ar-Hista said to his daughters, be chaste in the eyes of your husband. Do not go about eating in the presence of your husbands. Do not eat herbs at night for fear of bad breath. What if it's a mint? Or does a mint not count as an herb? Do not eat dates at night. Do not drink beer at night, and use not the same toilet that men do. When someone knocks at your door, do not ask who is it in the masculine, but in the feminine. All right, so those are specific instructions for women. Very specific. I've not seen, other than things involving stuff that you could even imply is for the women, like cooking things under certain contexts and working with clothing and all this kind of stuff that you definitely see women doing. Like my mind's eye sees women doing some of these things, men doing others of these things, right? And then here, this is all incredibly specific instruction to the women, only for the women. All right. And when someone knocks at your door, do not ask who is it in the masculine, but in the feminine. Well, hold on. If you're being chaste in the eyes of your husband, doesn't to be chaste, I don't even need to say Talmud, right? But to be chaste is to abstain, right? Abstaining from extramarital or from all sexual intercourse. Yeah, chaste. So why would you answer in... Well, I mean, why would you bother bringing that up? Right? I mean, you can say it in the feminine, just don't say it in the sexy. Be like, who is it? Right? Just... It'll be feminine just because just say it in your natural voice. Why are we even asking about what voice you should say it in? When is it appropriate to use a different voice? Why are we assuming sometimes a woman uses a, quote, masculine voice? Or are we just talking about submissive versus dominant language? I don't know. Anyway. One must not sift feed straw through a winnow. This Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of the Tana of the following Bereitha. Elazar ben Jacob said, a winnow must not be touched at all. One may clean out the crib for the stalled ox and throw superfluous fodder over the side, so that it does not become unclean. So says Ardosa, the sages declare this to be prohibited. One may remove the fodder in front of one animal and place it before another on the Sabbath. Gemara. The schoolmen propounded a question. Do the sages dissent from the first part of Ardosa's decree, from the last part, or from both? Come and hear. We have learned in a Boretha, the sages said, neither one nor the other may be thrown over the side, said Arhista. The sages differ with Ardosa only when the crib was a separate vessel. But if it is part of the stall and fixed to the ground, all agree that it is prohibited to clean it out. One may remove the fodder from in front of one animal, etc. In one Boretha, we learn that one may remove the fodder from cattle with healthy snouts and place it before cattle with diseased snouts. And in one Boretha we learn the contrary, that the fodder may be removed from the cattle with diseased snouts and placed before cattle with healthy snouts, said Abai. According to both Borethas, the fodder of an ass may be placed before an ox, but the fodder of an ox must not be placed before an ass. The first Boretha refers to fodder placed before an ass who does not emit phlegm from the mouth, and which may be placed before a cow who does emit phlegm, and the other Boretha, which permits the placing of fodder of animals with bad snouts, also refers to an ass and calls the snout of an ass diseased because he feeds on all manner of things like thistles, etc. That's funny. Your ass has mouth disease, and it's an ass because, of course it's an ass. Set. The cow is referred to as having a healthy snout because she is very particular as to what she feeds on. Hathor is a very high-class lady. What do you expect? Hence the two Borethas do not differ. Mishnah. Straw on a bed must not be shaken up with the hand, but it may be moved with the body if it is designed for fodder or a pillow or cloth lie over it It may be shaken up by hand. A clothes press, which is kept in the house, may be opened, but must not be used for pressing. The clothes presses of the professional washers must not be touched. Or Yehuda says if the press was partly open before the Sabbath, it may be entirely opened and drawn out. Others say the clothes may be drawn out. Gemara, Or Yehuda said it is permitted to triturate pepper seed with the handle of a knife one by one, but not two together on Sabbath. But Rabbah said that as a man usually triturates pepper in a mortar on a weekday, he may on Sabbath triturate as many together as he chooses with the handle of a knife. Or Yehuda said again on the Sabbath, a man who bathes should first dry himself standing in the water and then go out. Otherwise, he carries water into unclaimed ground for 4 ells. If that is so, what about the man going into the water? By entering, he pushes the water forward 4 ells into the lake or river. By mere motion, motion has not been provided for in the prohibitions of unclaimed ground. Said Abai, according to another version of Or Yehuda, if a man stepped into loam, he should wipe his feet on the ground and not on a wall. But Rabbah said, why should he not do that? Because it might be presumed that he plasters the wall and is engaged in building. Nobody is building with their feet when they use their feet just for walking, because they also have arms and hands. If you have arms and hands, you don't build with your feet. Anyway. Nay, this is not ordinary building, but more like field work. On the contrary, if he wipes his feet on the ground, he may perchance smoothen out an incavation. Hence, he should rather wipe his feet on the wall. For the same reason, he should not wipe his feet on the side of an incavation, lest he smoothen it out. Do you see what this is just so, like... It's so insane that anybody would care and make that matter. It's just like you stepped on a thing. Right? I mean, stepped on a loam. He should wipe his feet. Yeah, okay. Into loam. Anyway, it's just, I'm not even going to bother. Not even going to bother because, this is the whole book. Rabbah said again, one should not cork a bottle with a piece of cotton or cloth, lest he wring it. Or Kahana said, the dirt on a garment should be removed by rubbing the cloth on the inside and not on the outside, lest it seem like washing. Or Abuha, in the name of Ar Eleazar, quoting Aryanai, said, one may scrape off dirt on an old shoe, but not a new one. With what should it be scraped off? With the back of a knife, said Ar Abuha. Abuha. Said a certain old man to him, withdraw thy teaching before that of Arhaya. One must not scrape off dirt on an old nor on a new shoe. One must also not rub his foot with oil while it is still in his shoe. He may, however, rub his foot with oil and then put on his shoe or his sandal. He may also anoint his whole body with oil and lie down on a skin. Although the skin is benefited by the oil, said Arhista, providing the oil dripping from the body onto the skin is only sufficient to polish the skin. But if there is enough to soften the skin, one must not lie down on it. The rabbis taught a small man should not wear a large shoe, lest it fall off and he be forced to carry it on the Sabbath. He may, however, wear a large shirt, as there is no fear of his taking that off and carrying it. A woman should go out with a torn shoe on the Sabbath, lest she be laughed at and carry the shoe. A woman should not go out with a torn shoe on the Sabbath, lest she be laughed at, carry the shoe. Right. She also must not accept shalitza in such a shoe. But if she did so, the shalitza is valid. She also should not wear a shoe that she had not tried on before the Sabbath, lest it be too large and she take it off and carry it. Such is the explanation of Bar Kapara. In one Boretha, we have learned that one may remove the shoe of a statue, while in another we were taught that it must not be removed. This presents no difficulty. The one Boretha is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, who differ with our Elazar, while the other is in accordance with the opinion of our Elazar, as we have learned in another Boretha. Our Yehuda said in the name of our Elazar that if the shoe was loose and easily removed, it might be taken off. There, got to the end of the chapter. In 2 hours. Nice. Here's our footnotes. Interesting. The word Nazir, expresses separated, which means also one who has vowed to drink no wine. I find that interesting because it's so close to the word Nazi. All right. Chapter 21 is regulations concerning the pouring out of wine from vessels covered with a stone which must not be lifted, and the clearing off of crumbs, etc., from the table. That almost sounded like the corniest Nile song you've ever heard of. Because it reads like an ancient Egyptian spell as the subtitle for a chapter. I just find that funny at face value. How long is this chapter? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pages. We're going to take a break and we're going to read this chapter. And then after we're done with this chapter, which will probably just take the next segment, then we'll call it a night after that. Okay? All right. I believe this would be... No, that was the last song. The last song was Deadened and Scarified. This song is excoriating reality. Alright, here we are at the last bit. Let me see something. Jump back over here, monitoring the situation. I've had 13 views across the time span of the stream with one concurrent viewer, whoever you are. Thanks for tuning in. Here we are, Chapter 21, Regulations concerning the pouring out of wine from vessels covered with a stone which must not be lifted, and the clearing off of crumbs, etc. from the table. I want to make a Nile parody song of Chapter 21 of the Babylonian Talmud. That's gonna be what it's called. It's gonna be in brackets, Chapter 21 of the Babylonian Talmud, and then it's just gonna have this long title. It's gonna be the real title of the song. Anyway, Mishnah. One may lift up a petted child that has a stone in its hand, also a basket in which there is a stone. One may also handle unclean theruma, heave offerings, together with clean and with ordinary grain. Ar Yehuda saith, one may also take out theruma from mixed grain in proportion of 1 to the 100. Gemara. Rabbah said, if a man carried out a child to whose neck a purse of money was fastened, he is culpable of carrying the purse. But if he carried out the corpse of a child which had a purse of money fastened to it, he is free. Why is the man culpable in the first instance for the carrying of the purse and not for carrying the child? He holds with Arnathan, who said that a living thing carries itself. Why not say that the purse is an accessory to the child? Have we not learned in a Mishnah that if a man carried out a person on a litter, he is not culpable of carrying even the litter? Because it is of no consequence to the person. A litter is regarded as of no consequence to the person, but a purse is not held to be part of a child. Why, in the second instance, is the man not culpable for carrying the corpse of the child? Rabbah holds with Simon that every labor which is not performed for its own sake does not make a person culpable, and he is not culpable for carrying the purse because in his sorrow he does not think of the purse that the child was wont to play with. That argument gets a little weird and lost because that still doesn't quite fully explain the transitory property of carrying a child with a purse versus carrying just the child. Or carrying just the purse. It still kind of comes off a bit weird. So, let me see if they're still talking about it over here. An objection was made to Rabbah teaching by virtue of the above Mishnah. One may lift up a child with a stone in its hand. The disciple of Aryanai explained this is as follows. A child is referred to that yearns for its father, and if it were not carried, it would not become sick. The stone is no hindrance to its being carried. If that is the case, why is a stone mentioned? Why not money? Did not Rabbah say that the child may be carried if it have a stone in its hand, but not money? That is simple. If the stone fall to the ground, the father will not pick it up, but if money falls, he will pick it up. Yeah, okay, all right, so now this is getting into the deal of, okay, so it's because you're either carrying something that is ordinary or something that has intrinsic value. A stone is an ordinary thing. There will be another like it down the road. Money lost is going to have to be earned. That is time and labor lost. So anyway, we have been taught by a Boretha in support of Rabba, if one carry his clothes folded on his back, or his sandals or his rings in his hand, he is culpable. If he wear them, however, he is free. If he carry out a man dressed in clothes, sandals, and rings, he is also free. But if he carried the clothes, sandals, or rings alone, he would be culpable. A basket in which there is a stone, etc. Why should a man not be culpable for carrying it? Is not the basket a basis for a prohibited thing? Said Arhaya Bar Ashi in the name of Rabbah. Here, a basket is spoken of, which is broken, and where the stone fills in the gap, making the basket whole. Excuse me. One may also handle unclean heave offerings, said Arhista. When may unclean heave offerings be handled? If the clean heave offerings be at the bottom and the unclean on top. The unclean may be removed, but if the clean be on top, it may be removed, and the unclean must remain untouched. If the unclean be on top, let it be thrown off until the clean is reached. Answered our Eli, Rab said. Here fruit is spoken of that would be spoiled by being thrown off. An objection was made. We have learned in a Boretha, unclean heave offerings may be handled with clean and with ordinary grain. It makes no difference where it lies, on the top or at the bottom. This is a refutation of Arhista Arhista might say that our Mishnah treats of a heave offering that is needed for food, while the Boretha treats of a heave offering when the space it occupies is needed. What impels Arhista to explain the Mishnah in that manner, said Rabbah. From the latter part of the Mishnah, it seems to be in the sense explained by him, for that part of the Mishnah says that if money lie on a bolster, the bolster may be turned so that the money shall fall down. And Rabbah Bar Hana, in the name of Ar Yohanan, explained that such is the case only if the bolster itself be needed. But if the space occupied by the bolster is required, one may lift the bolster with the money and deposit it elsewhere. Now, if this part of the Mishnah refers to the demand for the object itself, the first part does likewise. Ar Yehuda saith, one may take theruma from mixed grain in proportion of 1 to the 100. How can this be done? In doing it, one would make a useless thing useful, and that is not permitted. Ar Yehuda holds with our Simon ben Elazar, who declares that one may look upon one side of a mixed grain pile and consider it theruma, and eat from the other. How can it be said, however, that they differ on this question? The former holding that one may take a measure of grain from the pile of 1 to the 100, set it aside as theruma, and use the remainder, while the other says that one should look upon one side of it and eat from the other. Ar Yehuda is even more lenient, for he permits all of it to be used after a measure had been set aside, while our Simon permits only part of it to be used. Mishnah. If a stone lie at the opening of a barrel, the barrel may be bent over so that the stone fall down. If the barrel stand amongst other barrels, it may be lifted and then bent over in order that the stone fall down. If money lie on a bolster, the bolster may be turned so that the money fall down. If dirt be found on the bolster, it may be cleaned off with a rag. And if the bolster be of leather, water may be poured on it until the dirt is removed. Said Arhuna in the name of Rab. Now, this is all about, it's a barrel. If money is lying on a bolster, let me double check on a bolster. Bolster, I think, has a couple of meanings. A long, thick pillow that is placed under other pillows for support. Okay, no. It's a support pillow. All right. Never mind. I thought this was part of a stone or boulder situation. Gemara said, Arhuna in the name of Rab. The Mishnah refers to a case where the stone lying at the opening of the barrel was left there by accident. If it was placed there purposefully, the barrel becomes a basis to a prohibited thing and must not be handled. If the barrels stand amongst other barrels, etc., who is the Tana who holds that where there are both a permissible and a prohibited thing, we must engage ourselves only with the permissible thing and not with the prohibited? Said Rabba bar Barhana in the name of Ar Yohanan. That is Simon ben Gamaliel, who said in Tract Betza that if the waste was in a larger quantity than the eatable portion might be taken, but the waste must not be touched. In the case of the barrel, the useful portion is certainly in a larger quantity than the useless. Why then should he not remove the stone? If a man should wish to remove the wine, it would necessitate his lifting the barrel at all events. With the barrel, the stone would also be lifted, and in that case the useless would surpass in quantity the useful. We have learned in a Boretha, Arios said, if a barrel stood in a cellar amongst other barrels or among glassware, and there is danger that if the barrel is lifted and bent over, the stone covering it will fall upon another barrel or upon some of the glassware and break it. It may be lifted, carried to another place, bent over so that the stone roll off its contents, removed to the quantity required, and returned to its former place. If money lie on a bolster, etc., said Arhaya bar Ashi in the name of Rab, the Mishnah here refers to a case where the money was accidentally left on the bolster, but if it is laid there on purpose, the bolster becomes a basis to a prohibited thing and must not be handled. Haya, the son of Rab of Difti, taught the same as Rabba bar Barhana in the name of Ar Yohanan, that if the space occupied by the bolster is required, the bolster together with the money may be moved. Ar Osha said, if a purse of money was accidentally left in private ground, one may put a loaf of bread or a child on it and take it back to the house. Our Itzhak said this rule applies not only to a purse of money, but also to a brick that is needed for any purpose. Said Ar Yehuda bar Shaila in the name of Ar Asi, that a box of money was once forgotten in the market, and Ar Yohanan was asked what was to be done. He ordered them to place a loaf of bread or a child on it and take it in. Said Marzutra, all these rules are laid down in the case of where the things referred to were left by accident. But Ar-Ashi said that such is not the case, and that a child or a loaf of bread can be used to move a corpse only. When a Bai had to bring in stalks of grain, he would put on them some article of food, or some vessel, and bring it into the house, and when Rabbah had to bring in an uncooked dove, he would put a knife on it and bring it into the house. When Ar Yosef heard of this, he said, how sagacious are the minds of these young scholars. When did the rabbis permit this to be done? When the things to be brought were forgotten on the outside, but they did not permit their being moved to commence with. Abai answered, I have done right, for were I not a trustworthy man, I would not have used those means to bring in the grain at all. Stocks of grain are a useful thing to sit on and may be handled, and Rab said, I have also done right, for were I not a trustworthy man, I would not have placed a knife on the dove at all, as there are some people who eat it raw, hence it may be handled on the Sabbath. Shall we say that Rabbah holds that the raw dove may be handled only because it is eaten raw by some people? And were it not so, it could not be handled on Sabbath. Hence, beholds as Ar Yehuda in Tract Betza, did not Rabbah say to his servant on a festival, fry a duck for me and throw the entrails to the cat? And we see thence that he permitted his servant to handle the entrails because they were food for a cat. The entrails could have spoiled if left over for the next day, and we must assume, therefore, that they were designed as food for the cat from the day preceding. Right. Anyway, Mishnah, the school of Shammai, teaches, bones and husks may be removed from the table. The school of Hallel, however, teaches, one may only lift the whole table, broad or cloth, and shake off what is left over. All crumbs smaller than an olive may be removed from the table, also the hulls of beans and lentils, because they may serve for fodder. It is allowed to use a sponge for wiping, providing it has a handle made of leather. Otherwise, it is not allowed. At all events, one may handle a sponge on the Sabbath, and it is not subject to defilement. Gemara said Ar Nahman, we know that the school of Shammai holds to the opinion of Ar Yehuda, who accepts the theory of muksa, and that the school of Hillel holds to the opinion of Ar Simon, who disregards the law of muksa. Hence, the order of the Mishnah should be reversed. The dictum of the school of Shammai should be credited to the school of Hillel, and vice versa. Hulls of beans, etc. The permission to remove the hulls of beans, etc., is certainly in accordance with Ar Simon, who regards the law of muksa in the latter clause of Mishnah, referring to a sponge which must not be used for wiping off table unless it have a handle, because without the handle it would be wrung, and that is prohibited, although the intention to wring it did not exist. Is in accordance with the opinion of Ar Yehuda, who holds that one must not perform an act even unintentionally. In this case, Ar Simon also agrees with Ar Yehuda because it again presents a parallel case to the beheading of a creature where no intention to kill exists. The pits of dates, or armiasa, to which some of the meat adheres, may be handled, and those of parsiasa must not be handled. Samuel used to handle the latter with bread, holding to his opinion that anything at all may be done with bread, while others hold that bread should not be put to any uses except for food. Rabbah would hold them with a pitcher of water. Ar Shesheth would throw them out by means of his tongue, and Ar Papa would throw them underneath the bed. It was told of Ar Zacharias ben Abkulos that he would turn his face towards the back of the bed and throw them out with his tongue. There we go. 851. We are at chapter 22, regulations concerning preparations of food and beverages. This one, probably longer than we'd like. Yeah, that's a pretty long one. We will get to this one next time. Where are we? We are at 296 out of 346. We have exactly 50 pages. 5 goose egg to go till we're done with this. So that's probably going to be in about maybe 4 sessions if I lean over 2 hours each session. All right, man. Thank you if you were quietly here. Thank you again if you listened later on. Somebody leave me comments, give me some good feedback. I hope you guys have been catching some of my divination with Stein. I've been really at it with my disposition on the Iran situation. I think there's some psyche breaking going on in ways that are unfortunate, but a lot of time has passed, and I don't need everybody I like to be on the same page as me with the level of divide. I just hope that when people are looking at their perspective of it, and even though it's been a wide and long perspective, just like mine has been, that you don't lose the wider perspective as you are focused on the necessities of what has arisen in the now. Because when this time passes, you're going to really wonder what you thought was going to be so bad about it. Because I have a feeling that some of these ways that people say it's going down are it's just I don't know, man. It's a distraction. It's something else going on that ought to be obvious to everybody. All right, man. Have a good one.